The library is open and I can't wait to spy on some book lives. My fellow nosies, let's see how messy this one gets. When It's Real by Nicole Jackson. This book is surrounding Baby, who is in a relationship with someone, and she's been in a relationship with this guy since she was 13. So they've been together for a really long time. But he is in prison for the upteenth time. I don't know how many times he's been to prison, but they make it sound like it's been quite a lot. And while he's in prison this time, he is acting really insecure and controlling. She starts thinking about what she could do if she wasn't tied down to this guy. And then you have Face, who is actually a big deal. You never really hear exactly what he does, but you know that he's involved in some kind of criminal activity, and you know he's quite high up. He comes around to Baby's neighborhood. While he's outside, Baby ends up messing up his car, and when he tries to confront her about it, she's really flippant, doesn't care about anything that he's got to say. She's very rude, and she just walks off. So he wants her to pay off the debt because his car is extremely expensive. She has a lot of pushback at first. That's really where we start with the two of them. He happens to know her brother, and so he gets in contact with her brother about everything that happened, and her brother encourages her to make the situation right. With this one, I wouldn't really say it had any triggers. I mean, it's really just implied illegal activity, and there's some violence, mention of a cancer diagnosis. So let's just go to what I did not like about the book. So in the beginning of this book, they bring up the issue of colorism. Now that I don't have an actual issue with, it is a problem that we do have in the community, and it is something that we should aim to deal with and make it better for everyone, because it only really harms all of us. However, I don't know, it's the way that it was brought up. Maybe I'm crazy, but it really left a bad taste in my mouth, the way that this was handled, and it really felt like it was completely unnecessary. I felt like they did mention complexion and hair texture in a way that felt like it was lecturing, but then it felt like the argument stumbled on itself, and so it was just so weird. And then the only person that they explicitly state is a dark-skinned woman. They portray her character as this big hater because of her insecurities, and she's really unkind to Bambi. Also, on top of that, she's a bad mother, and then she ends up being so monstrous that she picks up her daughter by the hair, Mrs. Trunchbull style, and beats the crap out of her and won't stop despite being asked to. She wasn't feeding her kids, she wasn't dressing them appropriately unless it was for a photo op. It really ended up having me think, what exactly is the message here? It felt like the author was throwing in her own hang-ups and her own issues with complexion, or maybe something that she herself has been through, and so it ended up coming across so poorly. I really feel like the only way to really get you to understand where I'm coming from is to really read out just a tiny bit. It's not going to be a spoiler for the plot or anything like that. There are characters having a conversation about the main character Bambi, and the main character is saying that Bambi is so beautiful, she's so pretty, and she goes on to say, yeah, Casey nodded, you can't really call it. Bambi is in a different league, and I'm saying that even compared to myself. Damn show ain't on the same level with you, so she can literally tap into a pool of men that you could never touch, and you don't know how some of these men would carry her. So my issue is, I guess, the emphasis on the you, you aren't on the same level. That on its own isn't really a big deal. Then another person interjects because more conversation is had where Shell is saying that how are you going to downgrade me and put her on a higher pedestal, and they're upset because she had originally said that Bambi was cute, and anyone from our community, we know that you can use cute as a rude way. You're saying that the person's cute, but you ain't really meaning it with the best intentions. So they say that, you're calling her cute when they were trying to big her up and say how beautiful she was. Shell is saying, I think she's cool. and I'm not a hater, but you're acting like she's so great. And you can tell from the way that the dialogue is that even though she's saying she's not a hater, she clearly is. And then another character comes in and says she's saying that she insecure. Bunny randomly chimed in. She was a high yellow, slender, wild something. The Ents loved her, and she was Sonia's bestie. She's mad that these Ents say she's fine, but not cute. She hates her own nappy hair and is mad that people often point out how yours is good. She hates her chocolate skin and bleaches, but want to tell you about passing a paper bag test. She's projecting and hopes that she can make you feel how she feels about herself. Now, again, not anything explicitly wrong with calling someone out. However, it seems like in one sense they're talking about it's her own insecurities, but in another sense they're saying that, oh, guys don't think that she's all that. So that's, again, the flip side of the negative colorism issue. Like, it's bad on both ends, and then forcing through this idea that she's not really liked because of her complexion, and then saying it's her own insecurities is kind of really weird. And I can't for the life of me understand why it's even here. Now, if it had something decent to add to the issue, then I could understand, but it just doesn't feel like it has any kind of real place where you can say that it's a positive. And then later on in the book, this is the next chapter, it's Bambi talking about the incident that happened with the little girl being picked up by her hair and hit. So she says, telling that girl that she shouldn't be cool with the light-skinned little girls because they think that they're all that. Because people think that they're prettier and they're always going to make sure that she's put last in everything. I think that Shell's grown ass really believes that she's telling the truth, not realizing that while she sees it as telling her child not to trust those little girls, she's really telling her child that she's not as attractive as those little girls. It's a competition. It could cause her baby to feel unnecessarily jealous towards other little girls while she's not focusing on her own positive attributes. I always tell people that compassion is the thief of joy, and she's supposed to give those kids words of affirmation. Again, on its own, not really problematic, and it's correct. People shouldn't be saying that to little girls, but it feels that the way that this is framed, what I will say is that the way that this was written makes it seem as if, since we only have one character that they expressly say is a dark-skinned person, everybody else seems to be light-skinned, that they mention complexion, and the only one that they have is this hater of all light-skinned women and is poisoning their daughter to think that light-skinned people think that they're better than them. And it comes across as a disingenuous way to bring up this subject matter at all. I feel like if you have this one-sided issue that you've personally had in your life, you don't need to bring such an important topic, because this is an important topic. It needs to be handled properly. It does affect our community, and there are people who raise their kids with these negative views that will impact everybody and perpetuate the same issues. But if you're going to bring it here in this really haphazard way where it just seems like dark-skinned girl hate instead of bringing a genuine issue up and having a proper dialogue about it, she should have just left it out. And it really left a bad taste in my mouth, and it made me consider whether this is an author that I want to read again. It's a shame because this has really got nothing to do with the plot or the characters. And it made me really think about the motives and what the message was here. Is the message that dark-skinned black girls hate light-skinned black girls and are completely insecure and raise their kids to also hate light-skinned girls whilst attacking their children like savages? Is that the message? It didn't feel like it was trying to come at this issue from a genuine place. This whole thing could have been taken out and it wouldn't have affected the book at all. My biggest negative gripe about this book, but it was huge to me, and it started off the book, and so it started it off in a negative way. It took me a while to actually settle in with the book, because when you see things like this, you really have to consider who it's coming from and why it is that they're saying what they're saying. Okay, there were a few spelling mistakes here or there, but it really wasn't too big of a deal. It's not going to take you out of the book necessarily. Everything is communicated well. Spelling mistakes, I'm not including slang or anything like that. Okay, so on to the positives. This book had a lot of twists and turns, so you were kept on your toes, but it didn't feel overwhelming. You also felt the pace of time during the book, so it made it feel like it was longer than it was, because the book is actually quite short. Because you can feel the passage of time, it doesn't seem like it's as short as it is. It feels like you sat there and you read a 400 page book, but you didn't. The characters were very interesting. I liked the moral dilemmas that the characters went through and how it impacted Baby and Faith. They were a great couple. They had a bunch of challenges which came from some of the choices that they had made. Even though it's a standalone, it gives you the same kind of feelings as if you had read a series, and I liked that. Especially because I feel like sometimes series, they always want to go for 3 books, and a lot of the time you could have done without the 3rd book and just had a slightly longer second. The characters are well thought out and they feel like real people. I think that I would have actually liked to see a little bit more of Tulo, because it seemed like he was doing some interesting things off page. I would have liked it that the readers knew, but the characters didn't. But, you know, it doesn't make it negative that that didn't happen. For my rating, I think I'm still going to make it a 4 out of 5, because although, yes, the book could have really done without such a beginning, it was at the start, and everything that came after that was solid. It was a very solid story, solid plot, really interesting twists, and the book at no point runs away with itself. And for spice, this book is spicy as hell. I'd give this a 4.5, because they be doing some things. This is the highest spice rating that I've given so far. It still hasn't reached that coveted 5 spice rating spot, but it definitely earns its place. I love the epilogue. Yeah, this was a solid read. I do like to give authors more than one chance. However, this is not a chance being given because I didn't like the book. This is a issue with ideology. If those don't mesh well with me, I don't really want to give money to an author that I just don't agree with on that level. However, I don't like to write people off from one encounter. I've never been that kind of person. Maybe how it came across to me is not at all how the author meant for it to come across, but at the same time, you are a writer and it's your job to make sure that your ideas come across to the readers the way that you want them to come across. If I do see something again like this, I'm going to have to give the author a miss in the future. Now we're done. On to the next.